What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. I am your host for this episode, the Young Buck, Andy York. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening to us. Whether this is your first time or you have been a long-time viewer, we really appreciate your support for each and every episode that we put out. Make sure you leave a like, share, and subscribe on bodyslam.net's YouTube channel. And if you're listening to this on our audio versions only, make sure you leave that 5-star review and share that with your friends as well. Make sure you go on over to Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, where you can follow the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast at PBW Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy_PBWP as well. And I'm flying solo for this episode as Chris is on vacation. Once again, he has left me to do a preview of a pay-per-view by myself. At least this time it's only one. Last time it was 2 pay-per-views at once. But we're going to be previewing Extreme Rules. We're going to be talking about some more White Rabbit conspiracy stuff because, you know, I am loving that at the moment as well. We're also going to be talking about the commentary changes on WWE's side for their season premieres that start tonight for SmackDown. We'll jump into that. But we're going to start with AEW because, to be honest, we weren't going to talk a lot about AEW this week because we were previewing Extreme Rules. But then again, another Backstage Fight broke out and a really good Dynamite that we need to talk about as well that's setting up some stuff. So we're going to dive into AEW, go through it kind of quickly. We'll probably dive into it more next week after Extreme Rules and everything else. But we're going to start with this Backstage Fight that broke out between Andrade and Sammy Guevara. Now, if you had been paying attention on Wednesday on Twitter at all, you could see that this beef had started kind of there. With Andrade kind of calling out Sammy responding, and then Andrade basically saying, all right, today you're going to find out when we're backstage. Look, there's a lot of turmoil going on in AEW backstage areas. There's a lot of people that are unhappy with the backstage stuff that's going on. And, it's getting crazy at this point. Obviously, with the all-out stuff that happened with Punk and the Young Bucks and Kenny, and Ace Steel and all of that stuff that's kind of happened. There's been a couple instances before of this kind of stuff happening. It seemed like we were kind of slowly taking the right direction backstage, and then something like this goes and happen. There's a lot of people at fault for this. I personally believe, if you believe the reports from the Wrestling Observer newsletter and a couple other places, Andrade is doing everything he can to get fired to go to WWE, which I at this point firmly believe. And Sammy Guevara has been a problem for most of his run in AEW, with the whole Sasha Banks thing that happened kind of towards the beginning, and then with Eddie Kingston and with Matt Hardy, and now with Andrade. There's a lot of animosity between Sammy Guevara and a lot of people. And so honestly, Tony Khan, I know, is not in the business of releasing or firing people. He's made that very clear that they aren't going to release people from their contracts. But if he wants to be the leader of the AEW backstage area, if he wants to show that this has to stop, if he wants to put his foot down somewhere, it has to start right here. And I think it starts by letting go both Sammy and Andrade, firing both of them. Andrade doesn't want to be there, so don't make him stay around. Don't be like Vince in that aspect. And Sammy's too much of a problem backstage. He's a very talented wrestler, but wrestling in this day and age only gets you so far. And he definitely is a problem. We talk all the time. We've talked before about how Punk was kind of the locker room cancer. I feel like the same is very true about Sammy Guevara. He definitely is a me first kind of guy, and it's not working out very well for him right now. So Tony needs to do something. Tony needs to step up and start putting his foot down. It doesn't matter who you are at this point. He needs to prove he's the boss. He needs to prove that he's in charge. And it starts by taking disciplinary actions, whether it's suspensions or releases or firings or whatever the case is. And this is also on AEW. Like everybody saw the beef that they've been having on Twitter. Everybody saw the back and forth that these two guys have been having. And nobody thought to keep these two guys separated from the entire event. Like, nobody thought maybe we shouldn't have Andrade and Sammy Guevara meet up ever. Like, we should have people stationed to take care of this, stationed to keep these two guys away. They may have. I haven't heard any reports. I highly doubt they have, because otherwise that wouldn't have happened in the first place. And it was a very dicey situation. It was a very difficult situation. But then Tony Khan sort of messed up again. He sent Andrade home. He canceled the match on Rampage on Friday, which, that's probably smart to send Andrade home and to cancel that. But he also should have sent Sammy Guevara home. But instead, on the Dynamite anniversary, the extended version, we waited 30 minutes. It was like 15, 20 minutes longer than normal just to watch Sammy Guevara get the pin in the main event. Is a very tone-deaf decision by Tony Khan. I understand you want to get heel heat and you want to advance storylines and stuff, but you've got to change that booking around. Let Chris get the pin, or let Garcia and Danielson get the pin instead, and kind of continue that to go forward. But don't let Sammy Guevara be the guy to get the pinfall. And he got the pinfall. He got the win. It feels like you're rewarding his bad behavior at this point, because yes, he's faced suspensions before, but he has done a lot of stuff that should have got him kicked out the door a long time ago. And it seems like Tony might be playing favorites in this case. There's no report. This is pure speculation on my part. It seems like Tony's playing favorites with Sammy Guevara, and it has to stop. Sammy's got to face some sort of massive punishment. Otherwise, this is going to continue. And this put a damper on Dynamite, because Dynamite, for the most part, was a nearly perfect show, in my opinion. It would have been a perfect show if this end result did not happen. Even if this main event didn't happen, I think Sammy should have been pulled from this main event and put somebody else in there from Jericho Appreciation Society in that match. I understand there were storyline purposes going on, but sometimes you got to throw the storyline out the window to take care of business like this. And this should have been one of those instances where Sammy got taken out of the main event. You could even do it storyline wise, have him do a promo, have him get beat up backstage or something like that. He goes home, you send him home, you discipline him, you let this story continue. This really put a damper on what was a nearly perfect Dynamite, because we started off the night with MJF and with Wheeler Yuta, and they tore the house down. I mean, MJF's first match back since Double or Nothing against Wardlow, hasn't lost a step. In fact, I think he's not that he's improved, but he's just advanced in so many different areas. He's such a fantastic heel, not just in what he says, but in his actions and his movements. He really understands how to get that heel heat. He picked up the win by making Yuta tap to the Salt of the Earth. And then we had some shenanigans kind of take place afterwards. Yuta was going for the handshake. They started his group started to beat up on Yuta. They gave MJF the brass ring, the AEW ring to hit him with. And then my favorite part, man, Regal gets up off commentary, puts on the brass knucks, gets in the ring. It seems like MJF was a little conflicted. I don't know if that was trying to make him turn face or if it was just playing along, whatever the case was. But I liked that Regal was not going to back down, put the brass knucks on. Everybody bailed out of the ring as quickly as they could. But a fantastic way to start off the night. And then we kind of kept going. Next, we had Darby Allin and Jay Lethal, who put on a clinic of a match as well. It seems like we're getting a babyface Jay Lethal after this, after the two men shook hands in the middle of the ring. I am all for a babyface Jay Lethal. I think Jay Lethal is one of those guys in AEW that really could very easily be at the top of the card each and every week, and I think he should be. I personally still think he should be an AEW World Champion at some point down the line. Babyface Jay Lethal versus heel Chris Jericho for the Ring of Honor title is a perfect setup, a perfect scenario for that. The match itself was great. A lot of roll-ups, a lot of pinfalls, just two guys really doing what they're really good at. Darby ended up picking up the win, and then after the match, the two men shook hands, much to the dismay of Jay Lethal's group that he has with him. So it looks like we got a babyface Jay Lethal. Darby Allin gets a big victory, and we're kind of continuing that to go forward. And then, we go to the TNT Championship match between Wardlow and Brian Cage, a match that a lot of people, including Chris, who I'm excited to see what he has to say next week about it. He texted me and said, man, there's nothing to this. It was just a most random buildup ever. And I get that. I completely understand that as well. But it's also an open challenge. So, there is no build up to an open challenge. It's just an open challenge. Whoever wants to face it or ever wants to challenge for it can do it. And I mean, Brian Cage was the perfect pick for this. He had a lot to prove. He wanted to go out and show out. And man, did these two guys show out in this match. Wardlow hitting a Hurricane Rana, Brian Cage hitting one of his own. Wardlow doing a whisper in the wind from the top rope was absolutely ridiculous, and then hitting the Powerbomb Symphony on Brian Cage to pick up the win. Brian Cage looked really strong, though. This is a great jumping off point for him. Hopefully, we get to see more of him in AEW because he came in with such high hopes, and he came in with such a fire underneath him, winning the casino ladder match, challenging Jon Moxley for the AEW World Title, being the first FTW champion in AEW. And then he just kind of fell off pretty quickly after that. So hopefully he can pick up steam again. Hopefully he can continue to move forward. And this is kind of the steps to start that for Brian Cage. But fantastic match between him and Wardlow. Really excited. You definitely should go check that out if you haven't seen that match yet. And then we move on to a 6-woman tag, which was really enjoyable. I loved every second of it. It was Serena Deeb, Penelope Ford, and Jamie Hayter versus Athena, Toni Storm, and Willow Nightingale. And they absolutely killed it. Willow getting the pinfall victory. She's challenging Jade Cargill for the TBS Championship at Battle of the Belts on Saturday or tomorrow, actually tonight, which I'll kind of preview that here in a little bit. I'm excited for that match. I'm excited for what they did here. All 6 women really got a moment to shine. Penelope Ford has come a long way. I know when she first started in AEW, a lot of people are very critical of her wrestling ability. She has really picked it up, really stepped up, and has done a fantastic job. Serena Deeb is one of the most underrated women's wrestlers of all time, and she proved that once again here in this match. Absolutely killed it. Jamie Hayter is so over. Toni Storm is so over. Athena and Willow are so over. So this match had everything it needed to be. After the babyfaces pick up the win, Britt Baker gets in the ring. The 4 heels start to beat down on the 3 good guys. Saraya is at ringside. She gets in the ring. And before in the night, Britt Baker had cut a promo backstage saying that the doctors have said that Saraya is not medically cleared to compete in AEW. She's not going to wrestle. She's not going to get physical, blah, blah, blah. Saraya got physical. She started beating up Britt Baker. It seems like we're getting Britt versus Saraya at some point, which is the perfect opening match for her to come into AEW. It's a great opponent for Britt. It's a great opponent for Saraya. They're going to absolutely tear the house down. I am so excited for whenever this match happens. It's the perfect first match for both women to kind of come back to. Outside of the women's championship picture, which it's nice to see a feud outside of the women's championship be displayed on AEW TV for once. And this is the perfect feud for that to happen. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see what Toni Storm does. And, it seems like we're probably going to get Toni versus Jamie Hayter at some point, which is going to be very, very exciting. And then, like I said, tonight, Willow versus Jade Cargill for that TBS championship. I've said this before. I think this is the night, though, where Jade loses the title. I think Willow picks up the win. She's got so much momentum right now. I think Willow does pick up the championship tonight in that match. And then we have a segment that could have gone one of 2 ways. It could have absolutely bombed and been one of the worst things we've ever seen in our life in wrestling, or it went the way that it went, which was one of the best segments in AEW history, one of my favorite segments so far in wrestling this year. The acclaimed National Scissor Day celebration was so perfect. Every single aspect of it was amazing, from Anthony Bowen's kind of coming out and cutting that promo that he did at the beginning, which was hilarious and great, to Billy Gunn getting involved and doing all of that. And then Max Caster getting on, doing the bipartisan scissoring, which was hilarious, to Swerve interrupting. And everything Swerve has done since coming into AEW has been perfect. I mean, the dude is masterclass in the ring. We know he's fantastic in the ring, but he can cut a promo just about as good as anybody. His facial expressions are amazing. He set up a match with Billy Gunn for Dynamite this week that I am very, very excited for. And if it was just kind of a no-nonsense build, I don't think anybody would care about. But the fact that they put this much time into it, and Swerve has done such a fantastic job in this build-up. He's done a fantastic job getting to this point. I am so excited to see what they're going to do. Swerve has the potential to be a world heavyweight champion, in my opinion, not just in AEW, but wherever he ends up. I feel like he has all the tools to be the guy that the crowd can get behind. He can cut a great promo. He's fantastic in the ring. He's so charismatic. He's so likable. He's so charming. He can also be an absolute jerk at times and be a perfect heel. So I think he has everything it takes to take the next step to become a world heavyweight champion at some point. And I think these are playing the seeds for that right now. Obviously, there's going to be a split at some point between him and Keith Lee. And I'm excited to see where they're going to go with that. I love the Acclaimed here, though. I love the Acclaimed being the tag team champions, talking about how they're the first homegrown AEW tag team champions in AEW history, which is perfect for them. They absolutely deserve it. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. They have done everything right to take the steps to be where they're at, and they absolutely deserve it. They were handed nothing. They were jobbing on Dark like 2 years ago, and now they are tag team champions. It's amazing to see the journey they've been on. So congrats to them. They're probably the most over thing in wrestling right now with him and Billy Gunn. I not dread, but I feel bad for DX on Monday night on Raw because I feel like there's going to be a lot of scissoring stuff happening in the crowd because of what he has done in AEW. I think the crowd's going to be over for that. And so I'm excited to see what that's going to look like on Monday night on Raw with DX. But this was a perfect segment and everything that we'd want it to be. We had a Luchasaurus squash where he just absolutely murdered Fuego del Sol. After the match, though, Jungle Boy ran out to make the save, basically, to a challenge at any time, any place. So next week in Toronto, we're getting Luchasaurus versus Jungle Boy. I believe for the first time ever. I don't know if they've ever wrestled before in the independent scene, but I'm very excited to see what this is. This is the emotional story that we want to see in AEW. This is the emotional storytelling that when they get right, AEW is very hard to beat in that department. And so I think this is going to be a fantastic way to kind of continue that. Obviously, with Christian being injured right now, he's not going to be able to do much of anything. So they're going to continue this Jungle Boy Luchasaurus thing for a while, and I'm excited to see where they're going to go from there. And then we had the main event, which I talked about, Sammy Guevara picking up the win for Jericho Appreciation Society over Daniel Garcia, Bryan Danielson. The crowd were heavy against Sammy in this match for good reason. And man, the air just went out of the building when he picked up the win, and it was very deflating, not in a good heel kind of way, but just a moral defeat, it felt like. So that's the thing that keeps this Dynamite from being one of the best Dynamites that AEW has done, in my opinion, this year or in all time. I really, really enjoyed it. They hadn't missed all night until that main event. And, they're picking up steam on TV. They're picking up steam everywhere else. They just got to figure out, and they got to get the backstage area fixed up and taken care of because it's getting out of hand at this point. So we got to do something, Tony. Tony's got to change something up in order for this ship to continue to move forward and to progress and to get better and better and better and better. But that's it for AEW. A great week for AEW. I'm excited to see what Rampage is going to look like tonight with Death Triangle versus the Dark Order for the Trios Tag Team Championships. I wouldn't be shocked if Dark Order picked up the win with the anniversary of the last match of Brody Lee in AEW. I think that's a great send-off for them, a great way to do that. And then we got Battle of the Belts too, which is Battle of the Belts, which is taking place right after, which I think is going to be a great time for that show as well. So we're going to recap some of that next week. We're also going to recap Dynamite from whenever Dynamite takes place in Toronto. We'll recap that as well. But now we're going to move on to WWE because this is a lot of stuff we're going to talk about, as well as preview the upcoming Extreme Rules pay-per-view. We're going to start with the commentary changes because this is something that I feel like I've been pushing for a while. I think SmackDown commentary has been perfect from the beginning with Pat McAfee and from Michael Cole and from everything else. I really enjoyed what they have done between those two guys, but I'm excited to see what they're going to do now. Obviously, with Pat going to do College Game Day and college football and stuff like that, I think that's very exciting for him, and it's a great opportunity for him. But now we move on to SmackDown to see what's going to happen there. Let's take a look at the commentary changes first, because I feel like that's the biggest thing we need to talk about for this. That's the first thing they've really announced for the season premieres of Raw and SmackDown. Let's start with the Raw commentary team. I think that's where the biggest change has come. Jimmy, that was doing the lead commentary, is no longer a part of WWE. He sent out a whole big statement thanking and appreciating his time there. So he is no longer going to be on commentary for Raw or for WWE anymore. In fact, it's going to be Kevin Patrick, who has done a lot of stuff on Main Event. If you listen to Main Event or watch Main Event at all, he's done a pretty decent job over the last couple of months. He's gotten a lot better. So he's going to be moving to full-time duty on Raw. And it's just a two-man booth. It's actually a two-man booth for all three shows, which I personally am a huge fan of. I think three-man booths get too convoluted too quick. I think two-man booths do a perfect job of getting everything done. So for Raw, it's going to be Kevin Patrick with Corey Graves, which I think is a perfect combination for those two. I'm obviously very happy I don't have to hear Byron Saxton on commentary anymore because he just annoyed me to death. So I think it's good for both Corey and for all of us because Corey and Byron, they have chemistry, but it doesn't always work from time to time. So I'm very excited about that. Byron is staying in WWE. He's going to be a backstage he's going to be a backstage interviewer on Raw with a returning Kathy Kelly, which is perfect for them. I think Kathy Kelly had done a fantastic job at NXT and on the main roster when she was called up for a while, and I think she's going to absolutely step in and kill it here as well. She definitely is kind of like a Renee Young style of backstage interviewer. She just kind of gets it. So I'm very excited to see what she's going to do there. For SmackDown, Michael Cole is going to be the lead commentator still. And for the time being, while Pat McAfee is away doing college football, Wade Barrett is going to be on commentary with Michael Cole, which I think is absolutely perfect. I think when Pat McAfee comes back, we get a three-man booth of Pat, Michael, and Barrett. I think that's absolutely amazing. I think it's so amazing. I did it myself on PBWF Mayhem, so you definitely want to go check that out because I had this idea before them. I'm telling you, they're listening to our federation every single week because it seems like we do something there, and then on TV, either in AEW or WWE, it pops up and shows up, and this is another example of that. And then on NXT, Vic Joseph is staying as lead commentator, but he's going to be joined by Booker T, which I think is fantastic. I think Booker T is a very underrated commentator at times. He doesn't make sense all the time, but he is hilarious to listen to. He's very entertaining. And to have someone like Booker T in NXT, I think is a perfect choice for that. Obviously, he runs his own wrestling school in Texas. He can give that insight, that in-depth view in NXT that I think a lot of people need as well. So overall, I'm very excited about these commentary changes. I think they're perfect for WWE. I think they're exactly what they need right now to freshen things up for their season premiere. Obviously, with Triple H being in charge now, I think we're starting to see, especially with these season premieres that they've called this SmackDown tonight and Raw on Monday. I think we are really going to start to see Triple H's hands on the product even more. So we're going to see his fingerprints all over the place aesthetically now, more so than ever before. So commentary, I think, is going to be like that. I wouldn't be shocked if the setup in the arenas are a little different for both shows, which I pray for. If we get the SmackDown Fist back, that's amazing. Or if we get the SmackDown set that we had before the pandemic, that would be fantastic too. Raw, I think, needs something different than just a big screen. I understand it's easier, but I think it's missing something that's standing out on its own. So I'm excited for the season premieres for tonight and for Monday. There's a lot of things that are going on that are adding a lot of intrigue. And speaking of intrigue, the most intriguing thing in professional wrestling right now, other than the Acclaim scissoring everybody, is the White Rabbit. The White Rabbit has taken a mind of its own. It's safe to say that this is the most invested in WWE creative like this since the Fiend Bray Wyatt, honestly. Maybe I'm missing something in between the two. But to this level, to this degree, this has been very intriguing for everybody. This has been one of those that has been a show don't tell mentality that I personally absolutely love. I hate when we are told everything all the time. I love it when we are shown stuff instead of being told stuff. And this is that example perfectly. We got another QR code on Monday night that sent a picture of I believe it was Samson and Delilah, which is a biblical story of Samson, who is full of strength, Delilah, who he fell in love with, betrayed him, cut his hair, and he lost his strength. This showed up while Alexa Bliss was on screen, so this is pointing to Bray Wyatt. However, when you do the source code thing again for the QR code, it says Gacy on it as well. So they're playing it up like it's Joe Gacy. They're playing it up like it's not Bray Wyatt. I think we're going to find out at Extreme Rules who this person is. I think we're going to get a very clear-cut detail as to who this person is, which I'm very excited for. I'm curious to see what's going to happen. I'm curious to see how people are going to react if it's not Bray Wyatt. It all depends on who it is. If it is Joe Gacy, I feel bad for him. I don't think it's going to end up very well. I don't know who else would be such a big deal like Bray Wyatt coming back into WWE. We're going to get to who I think the White Rabbit really is when we do the predictions of the show. But you can tell which way I'm leaning very heavily, which is very exciting. And speaking of pay-per-views, I did not mention this before. It seems like going forward, all pay-per-views are going to be commentated, at least I believe until Pat gets back. All pay-per-views are going to be commentated by Michael Cole and Corey Graves, which I think is absolutely perfect. Those two guys can absolutely call pay-per-views all day long, and I think everybody will listen to them. So I think that's a brilliant idea for that as well, going forward for pay-per-views. But let's jump into Extreme Rules, man, because there is a lot of intriguing things. This is one of those shows, and I heard the guys at Cultaholic talk about this, which I listen to them all the time. If you don't, I highly encourage you to go check them out. One of the things that they mentioned while they were kind of running through the cards and giving their predictions and things like that is this is one of the first pay-per-views in WWE that for a long time that I can remember that it feels like every match on the card could be the main event of Extreme Rules. Maybe not, maybe a couple couldn't or would feel a little out of place, but there's no clear-cut main event for this show, which I think is amazing. It means everything has been built up perfectly and equally, and it all makes a lot of sense to me. So I love the way that they've done this. I love the way that they've gone through this. And so personally, I think the women's ladder match might be the main event. Because I feel like there's a lot of intrigue behind that. I think Bayley and control damage has been, or damage control has been, I'm not going to say lackluster, but it hasn't been to the level that we wanted it to be. They've done some really interesting stuff. They've done some very good stuff. Obviously, all three women are fantastic in the ring and do a really good job at what they do. It feels like something is missing. It feels like they're not fully connecting with everybody yet. And I think this might start here. I think this ladder match is going to be great. First ever women's ladder match for the women's championship. I'm so excited for this. I can't think of two better women for this spot. Bianca is going to do something absolutely crazy. Bayley's going to do something absolutely crazy. I'm very curious to see what they're going to do. The move sets that they're going to do, the spots they're going to do. I'm very intrigued by this. I don't know if it's time though. I don't know if this is the time to pull the trigger on Bayley being the champion. I don't know if it's time to pull the trigger on Bianca being the champion. I'm going to give my predictions at the end of this podcast to kind of wrap it up. I want to give my predictions, but this one's kind of a coin toss for me in a lot of ways. I think this is like a 50-50 call. You could go either way, and it makes sense storyline wise. You could build off of it either way you do it. But this one I'm very, very, very intrigued for. Another one that I'm very intrigued for is the fight pit between Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle. I know I said that there's no clear main event for this show, but if there was a match that was destined to start this card off, I feel like it's this one. I'm getting the crowd hot and heavy. It's not going to be necessarily in the ring. This is a great way to start that off, and then you don't have to worry about it later on. Seth Rollins versus Matt Riddle in the fight pit with Daniel Cormier as the special guest referee, which is a perfect addition to this match. It's obviously an MMA style match. It's obviously an MMA style feel to this match. And you definitely want to have somebody like a Daniel Cormier to be in there to be the special guest referee. Honestly, this is another coin flip. I know storyline wise, it makes sense for Matt Riddle to continue to move forward to win this. And then we get a third match somewhere down the line. But once again, I'm going back to Cultaholic. I believe it was Tom Campbell that said this. And when he said this, it registered with me, and I love it. There's something to Seth Rollins walking around saying he is now the MMA king that I need to see in my life. So I don't know which way this match is going to go. I don't know which way I'm leaning fully yet. This is one, though, that is going to be very hard to beat. If it starts the night off, this is going to set the tempo for the rest of the night. I'm so excited for this. I don't know if Cormier is going to turn on one of them. It wouldn't shock me if he joined Seth Rollins or turned to help Seth Rollins. It wouldn't shock me if Brock Lesnar showed up and we set up a Brock Lesnar versus Daniel Cormier match for Saudi Arabia, because that's something that I feel would happen instantly, and would get a lot of people talking, a lot of buzz around it as well. So that's something to watch out for. That's something to look out for. But this one is going to be stiff and brutal, and I think it's just going to be just as good as their one, if not better than their one at Clash at the Castle. Speaking of rematches from Clash at the Castle, let's talk about one match that I think could absolutely steal the show once again, that involves Sheamus and Walter, Gunther, whatever you want to call them. The Brawling Brutes versus Imperium in a Donny Burke match. This is going to be a barn burner, car crash, train wreck, fantastic match. I think this is going to be amazing. This is a perfect setup and perfect scenario for Imperium to take the loss here, for the Brawling Brutes to get the win, without hurting Gunther, without hurting him as IC champion. I really think this is a great way for them to do that. Sheamus has been on a tear over the last year or so, and I believe him and Walter are going to continue to do that. They're going to continue to go forward and continue to beat the crap out of each other, which I'm looking forward to. I personally, 6 months ago, I didn't think I would say this, but if Sheamus was the one to beat Gunther, Walter, I call them both. If Sheamus was the one to beat him for the IC title 6 months ago, I don't think I would have been happy about it. Right now, I think I would love it. And so I think that may be a direction that we're heading for, is Sheamus getting the pinfall, finally getting the IC title, finally becoming a what's it called? A Grand Slam champion. There it is. Finally becoming a Grand Slam champion. I'm very excited to see where they go from here. This match is always going to be brutal. I really hope that this is where we start to also see the switch from Butch to Pete Dunne even more. We've started to see it very slowly in his gear and what he's wearing and how he's acting a little. I hope they just kind of switch it back, go ahead and start calling him Pete Dunne again. This match is going to be amazing. This is my sneaky match of the night. This could absolutely steal the show for the rest of the card. Kind of continuing the theme of rematches from Clash at the Castle, sort of a rematch. We get Edge versus Finn Balor in an I Quit match. This one is another toss-up for me. The reports are saying that Triple H has a heavy push for Finn Balor in the future, which I think we all can all say thank God for, because we've been wanting him to get that massive push for a long time. It seems like that's in the work to finally start happening. But I don't see Edge saying I quit here. I know he's definitely the kind of guy that would say it and to get someone over like Finn even more. I don't know how that would work in this storyline wise though. This is one of the ones that I'm like 50-50 on as well. I don't know which way they're going to go. I think it's going to be a fantastic match. It's going to be a car crash. I fully expect Beth Phoenix to get involved to take out Rhea Ripley. I fully expect Rey Mysterio to get involved to take out Dominic. Matt Riddle could get involved to take out Damian Priest as well. So there's a lot of things that could happen. There's a lot of things that could take place. But this is another one that I don't know what the outcome is. And I think that's what's so intriguing about this is, like, other than one or two, I don't think there's a clear-cut favorite or clear-cut winner for these. It's a toss-up. Every match seems like a toss-up, and that makes this so much more fun and enjoyable for all of us. One that is not a toss-up, in my opinion, one that is very clear who has to be the winner here is Drew McIntyre versus Karrion Kross in a strap match. Karrion Kross's first massive match on pay-per-view since returning to WWE. I love Drew McIntyre. I was very pro Drew McIntyre heading into Clash at the Castle. He needed to win the championship, needed to win the championship. He didn't get the job done. He didn't get the championship won. So now I feel like he's in the business of putting guys over, putting guys forward, and it starts with Karrion Kross. Kross needs to get this win. He needs to get this big victory. Drew won't take any damage losing to Karrion Kross, but Karrion Kross will be absolutely halted if he loses to Drew McIntyre. So I feel like this one is like 100%. Karrion Kross has to get the win here. Doesn't have to be clean. Doesn't have to be in a good guy way. He can win via heel style. Which, if we've watched Raw and SmackDown in the last couple of weeks, we know Triple H loves a good distraction finish. This could be one of those as well. I think the match is going to be good. I think it's going to be very good. Both guys are really good in the ring. Both guys get it. Seems like they have good chemistry together. And so I think this is going to be a really good match. I feel like Karrion Kross has to get the win here in this match. And then the other one I haven't talked about yet, which is a rematch from SummerSlam, which is, I think, good for both women. Ronda Rousey challenging Liv Morgan for the SmackDown Women's Championship in an Extreme Rules match. This is one that is 50-50 as well. I think a lot of people are leaning towards Ronda getting the pinfall, Ronda getting the win. You don't want to have Ronda lose too many times. However, the Extreme Rules stipulation helps a lot because I think Liv can get the win, not in a traditional wrestling sense, not in a traditional wrestling style. She can get the win in an Extreme Rules match. It elevates Liv even more. Don't make Liv look weak. She can stay champion, continue to move forward. Ronda can go do something else, go away for a little bit, do whatever she wants to do. I really think, though, this is one that is another toss-up. This one can main event. I think the placement of this match will tell us a lot about the outcome of this match. If it's a main event, I could absolutely see Ronda getting the win. If it's somewhere in the middle of the card, I could see Liv picking up the win as well. So this one is very interesting and very, very intriguing to me. This whole card is very intriguing. I think this is one of the best Extreme Rules. It's nice to have an Extreme Rules card that has matches that have stipulations to them. It's not just Extreme Rules in name only and nothing else. Like, we actually have stipulations to a show that has Extreme Rules in it. In Philadelphia, I'm very excited for this pay-per-view, a Saturday night. I think this is going to be one of the ones that we talk about for a while. It's a B-level pay-per-view for WWE, but man, these B-level pay-per-views sometimes are absolutely killer, and I think this is going to be one of those that we're going to be talking about for a while. The fallout on Raw is going to be insane. I think SmackDown as well. It's going to be absolutely crazy to see that. So I'm going to run through my predictions, including who I think the White Rabbit's going to be. As we kind of wrap up this episode, it's a shorter episode. I'm by myself. I don't like rambling for more than an hour by myself. I know you guys probably don't like hearing me talk for that much as well. So we're going to run through this card. I'm going to give my predictions for everything, including the White Rabbit, and then we're going to wrap up this episode. So let's start with the White Rabbit reveal itself. I have two options. The one that I hope it's not first, and then I'll give my one that I'm praying for. I think everybody knows what that is. The one that I'm hoping it's not, but I could absolutely see it being, is Joe Gacy. It's an interesting concept, and it's an interesting character for someone like Joe Gacy to play. But I know WWE is smart enough to realize that if they were going to run these vignettes and run these QR code things, anything like this is automatically going to be linked to Bray Wyatt until Bray Wyatt comes back. I mean, we saw with Edge, it was a very clear-cut vignette for Edge, and people automatically started linking Bray Wyatt to it. So they had to have known, Triple H had to have known that if this was the case, then this is how this is going to go. Obviously, WWE just hired a long-term creative, or head of long-term creative, Rob Fee, who is a horror director, horror writer. He approached WWE in 2019 about doing a Fiend-related movie. Obviously, after that, Bray Wyatt got released. They punted on the idea. He is now part of the WWE creative, who has been hands-on with Triple H with these QR code things. If it's not Joe Gacy, which I'm hoping it's not, it has to be Bray Wyatt. I mean, Bray Wyatt coming in, we don't know what character he is. We don't know the style he's going to be. We don't know what we're getting. We just know that it has to be Bray Wyatt. I think this is going to tell us a lot about Triple H right here, is if this is Bray and how they present this and how they go along with this, Bray Wyatt could be, and I've said this before, and I know Chris sort of makes fun of me for saying it all the time, or he doesn't always agree with me on this, but this has the potential to be this generation's Undertaker if it's handled the right way. I'm not saying to the same level. I'm not saying to the same degree. But I think this is this has the chance to be this level's or this generation's Undertaker with its own twist. We don't want him to be like the Undertaker. We want him to be Bray Wyatt. That's why we love Bray Wyatt. And I think this is the perfect example, the perfect setup for that. So my White Rabbit reveal, it has to be Bray Wyatt. I don't know if we get the full reveal on Extreme Rules. I just think we're going to get a very clear-cut picture that is going to point to somebody, I think, at Extreme Rules. And I think that person is Bray Wyatt. Let's move on to the Donny Burke match, the Brawling Brutes versus Imperium. Like I said when I was previewing it, I think this is the perfect scenario, the perfect storm for Imperium to take the loss without it being Gunther taking the pinfall, and then he can beat the crap out of Imperium for it later. I think Sheamus absolutely gets the pinfall here. I think Sheamus absolutely gets the pin here. I think it's either Sheamus or Pete that get the pin here. I think we're heading to another match between these two guys, where, like I said, Sheamus more than likely will get the victory over Gunther to become IC champion. I'm excited for this. I think the Brawling Brutes take this matchup in a hard-fought match. Let's move on to the fight pit between Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle with Daniel Cormier as the special guest referee. Like I said before, this is a toss-up. I think storyline-wise, it might make sense for Matt Riddle to get the win here. However, I think Seth picks up the win because of Cormier. I wouldn't be shocked if Cormier turns on Matt Riddle. Maybe they set up something down the line for those two guys. Seth getting the win, talking about him being the MMA king, haunting that or holding that over Matt Riddle would be absolutely amazing. And then going into his U.S. Championship match with Bobby Lashley on Monday, a former MMA guy, I think that sets it up perfectly even more. I really hope I'm right on this. Seth Rollins gets the victory, gets the win over Matt Riddle in the fight pit. In the strap match, Karrion Kross versus Drew McIntyre. This one, I think it's a clear-cut victory, clear-cut winner. Karrion Kross has to get the win over Drew McIntyre. He has to pick up the win, especially if they want him to be a main event player down the line. I think he's going to be challenging for those titles pretty soon. I think he has to start by picking up the victory over Drew McIntyre in probably a convincing fashion in this matchup, and I think that's exactly what happens here. Edge versus Finn Balor in an I Quit match. This is another toss-up to me. I could see it going both ways. I just honestly, I have trouble seeing Edge say I quit unless they pull a Mick Foley, The Rock style because he said I quit a couple times in his promo on Monday. I could see them using that audio to make it sound like he said I quit to continue this down the line. I don't see Edge saying I quit, and so for that reason, I think Edge picks up the win. I think it's going to be a fantastic match. It's going to be a lot of fun going back and forth between these two guys. Liv Morgan versus Ronda Rousey in an Extreme Rules match. This is another one, like I said, that's a 50-50 toss-up. I think Liv Morgan, though, gets the win. I personally am enjoying Liv as champion. I know a lot of people have kind of turned sour on her. I'm enjoying her championship run. I think a babyface underdog champion is always hard to book, and I think they've done a better job of it. That table spot that she had on SmackDown last week was sick and insane and nasty, or a couple weeks ago, I believe. I'm very excited to see what she's going to do. I think she's going to do something stupid and crazy, which is going to be amazing to see that. And I think she picks up the victory. I think Liv Morgan picks up the win over Ronda Rousey in an Extreme Rules match that Ronda can use and say, hey, you never beat me one-on-one in an actual match. You just beat me in an Extreme Rules match. So I think Liv picks up the win for this one. And then the ladder match for the Raw Women's Championship, Bianca Belair versus Bayley. This is another one where I'm enjoying Bianca's run as champion. I think she's doing a fantastic job. However, I think Bayley does pick up the win here. I think Bayley gets the win. I think we get a moment where Damage Control holds all the gold. And that's like what every faction needs to establish themselves, is a moment where they all hold all the gold at some point. And I think this happens here. I think Bayley is the Raw Women's Champion, maybe because of a turn by either Alexa or Asuka, one of the two. Or she just wins it outright, which I think would be great for Bayley. I know heel tactics are important at times, but sometimes also just getting a clean victory is important, and I think that's important for Bayley. So Bayley getting the pinfall, or Bayley getting the victory, winning the Raw Women's Championship from Bianca Belair. That is my prediction for Extreme Rules. That's all my predictions for Extreme Rules. Let me know what you think, though. Tweet me at Andy _PBWP. I'll get it out eventually. With what you think. Do you agree with what I said? Do you disagree with what I said? I'm going to be live tweeting throughout the entire show. So come join me at my Twitter handle, where you can join me in the discussion from the show that's going on. We're going to have a lot of discussion, a lot of fun times. If Bray Wyatt comes back, we can all celebrate and cheer together. I'm sure you'll be able to hear me from wherever you live because I'll be screaming at the top of my lungs. But we're excited about it. We want you to come and join us for that as well. But that's going to do it for this week's episode. We really appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to us each and every week, whether this is your first time or you've been with us from the beginning. We really appreciate it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the bodyslam.net YouTube channel. Like this video, share it around with your friends. If you're listening to the audio version, share it with your friends. Leave a 5-star review. Follow us on Twitter at PBW Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy_PBWP. And we're going to see you guys hopefully tomorrow night or Sunday as we review Extreme Rules, talk about the show, and then we will see you guys next week or Monday. We'll actually see you for PBWF. I believe it's our pay-per-view episode, so you definitely want to check that out. You definitely want to listen to that. We had a lot of fun doing those two shows. You want to give those a listen. A lot of twists and turns and swerves and things like that. You want to give those a listen. And then we will be back for the midweek episode next week as well. Chris will be back, probably giving his thoughts on Extreme Rules as well as what's taking place in AEW and WWE. But that's going to do it for this week's episode. We really appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to us each and every week. For Chris, who couldn't be here, my name is Andy York. We'll catch you guys down the road.